I remember it as if it were yesterday. It was 2 years ago on one January afternoon. I was on my way home from the grocery store. It had been a rear-ended couple of days earlier, so I was forced to go on foot. I was passing an alleyway near my street when I spotted something lying on the ground. Curious, I went over and examined it. It was a DVD case with some sort of most horrendous cover I've ever seen. The title read, Alice in Wonderland, and it had several characters on the cover, but there was something wrong with them. While a few of them looked somewhat recognizable, nothing else in any resemblance to the book at all. The one I thought was supposed to be the book that Alice had stick-arm figures and pencil-thin neck, a huge deformed football-shaped head, almost as big as her body. The caterpillar looked like he was made out of blue and purple green balls. And there was a dragon, which I assumed this time was supposed to be Jabberwock, texture and green scales with spikes on top of its head and no arms at all. Another thing that caught my eye was the rat in the cook's outfit, making me guess it was supposed to be the cook. What bothered me the most about the cover was that all the characters looked at through as if they were staring directly at me with dead-eyed expressions, which made a chill run down my spine. Still, I was curious, and after checking to see if the case contained a DVD, to which it did, I decided to take it home and watch it with that morbid of curiosity. As I got up, I thought I heard a voice said, "You'll enjoy this." But when I saw there was no one around, I shrugged it off as in my imagination. When I got home after putting away my groceries, I put the DVD into my computer. The screen lit up with the bright colors, which were accompanied with a song that sounded like it was recorded in the 50s. As soon as the option appeared, I hit play. I was met with the scene deformed Alice from the cover chasing an equally badly drawn white rabbit, which led her to the famous rabbit hole. The audio still sounded like a 50s audio play, to which it was coupled with the animation quality coming off as disturbing, but as forgotten as soon as Alice leapt into the rabbit hole. I was mesmerized by what I was seeing. It almost felt like a dream. The animation and audio hadn't been changed, but there was something about it that made me feel happy. I found myself singing along to some sort of musical numbers. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, want you, join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, want you to join the dance? I could swear I could hear someone else singing as well, but I was too invested in the movie to even care. Right then, something else mattered. Then the part came when Alice left Wonderland. Suddenly, it didn't hold my interest anymore. I remember the grotesque animation that the outdated audio and had listened to earlier, but now it just made me feel uneasy. Disgusted, I ejected the DVD from my computer and put it back in the case. That's when I heard a laugh outside my window. I turned and saw her. Outside my window was the same deformed Alice from the movie. She was staring at me with a dead-eyed gaze, and she had the hideous, permanent smile on her face. The only difference was this time it was a cartoon. I panicked and went off to bat. I kept my high school baseball team, but it looked back at me at the window. She was gone. As the months passed, I tried to forget about it. I had thrown the DVD away, that is, personally, until I went to the dump, tossed it directly into the landfill. I was afraid that if I had it any other way, she would just bring it back to me. Eventually, I was able to put it out of my mind. I had been promoted to my manager at my job at Burger King, and I was finally starting to feel content with where my life was heading. Then one day, I found a small package in the mail. Wondering where it was, I began to open it. My eyes widened with shock when I saw that it was the DVD. It had a bit of grime left from the dump, and it was accompanied by a short message, reading, "Won't you join the dance?" I pushed the box away, not wanting to look at it. Then I heard tapping at my door. I considered it who would it be, because the DVD had come back to me like it meant that it was that girl. Again, nevertheless, I proceeded with caution towards the door. When I opened it, I was greeted by my boss. He and I were good friends outside my workplace, and he had come for a casual visit. Noticing the box, he asked about it. I explained about the DVD, leaving out the part of the girl, which of course, this caused him to become more interested. and a bit of pressure, I reluctantly agreed to watch a DVD with him. As the movie started, we were then met with the same terrible animation, with the same outdated audio. As soon as Alice fell down the rabbit hole, we were both mesmerized. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? When the movie ended, my boss looked at me with a shocked expression on his face. I think I've heard about this somewhere, he told me, and asked me if he could borrow my computer. Then he looked into the TV tropes. So bad it's a horrible page. For Western animation, pointing out the entry immediately under the animated film tab. While it did mention the atrocious character designs and confirmed that it really was just a public domain audio play set to animation, it didn't say anything about the hypnotic effect from the film had after Alice falls down the rabbit hole. There was also a link to which it took us to an archive of the film's official website that seemed over-enthusiastic about its product. I laughed as it came from the window. We turned to see the girl, and there she was again, staring at us. My boss nearly fainted from the shock as he stared back at the girl's deformed features. Then Harry Paw took her by the hand and led her away. My boss and I stood there both in silence for several minutes. Before he asked me about her, I told him the rest of the story, about how I had seen her and when I watched the movie for the first time. I didn't tell him about it because I didn't think he'd believe me. He told me he understood and promised that he'd keep his eyes open just in case if he ever came back. And with that he left, leaving me alone in the house. The next day I heard back from my co-workers that he had disappeared. An investigation was being mounted, and each one of us were suspects. When I was questioned, I explained everything what had happened the last time I saw him, again leaving out the girl in the window. The neighbors confirmed that he had no idea and indeed left my place, and that I had gone somewhere else and not coming into work until the following day. This satisfied the investigators, and I was allowed to go. The thought came across my mind as I returned to work as usual. What if she had done something to him? After returning home, I took my bat and the DVD and went out again. I was determined to find this girl, to see if my suspicion was correct. I entered my car and began driving around the city. Hours passed, but I couldn't find any trace of her, until I heard a humming from the back seat. I stopped and checked my rearview car mirror, and when her face came into view, I let out a scream. As if on cue, a hairy arm smashed through my window and slammed onto my head, knocking me unconscious. When I came to, I was cold, in a dark place. I could hear the music play in the background, which started to recognize the moment. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Came a voice from right behind me. I turned to see it was the girl. As I was backing away, she turned her head and said in a cheery voice, "Don't be afraid. You're in Wonderland." Confused, I stared at her for several minutes before asking her who she was. "I'm Alice," she replied in that cheery voice. "You saw my movie." I nodded in response and the girl continued, "You didn't like my movie, did you?" I shook my head. Suddenly, the girl's smile turned to a frown. "You will like my movie," she said darkly. I was suddenly grabbed and carried over by the table, where I was strapped down. Table lowered and the girl smiled down at me. "You'll like it more than your friends does," she laughed. I looked over to see my boss, who was also strapped down and staring up with a look of contentment on his face. I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my arm. For a moment I thought I saw a needle in my peripheral vision. I immediately started to feel calmer. The girl then began talking. "A couple of years ago," she said, "my rat and I invited these two nice men to my house. I showed them my favorite radio show, and my rat helped me agree to make a movie out of it." She paused for a moment, before continuing in a darker tone. "I loved the radio show. It was about me and all my friends. That's why I wanted to make a movie out of it. But when the other people watching my movie, they didn't like it. They thought it looked bad. That's why I added a few new sounds to help get people to pay attention, so they see and enjoy it." My head was starting to feel numb. Before long, I realized I was staring up at a flat-screen TV. The girl kept talking. "But then nobody saw it," she said, "so I had to show a few people myself. I put on a few places where people could see it. but they still didn't like it. That's why I'd bring them down here, so I could show them how wonderful it is. All of a sudden, I started to feel good as the screen above me flickered on. I found the girl was right. The movie was wonderful, and it was the best thing ever made. Every day when I woke up, the first and only thing I want to do is watch the movie. Every day I wake up singing, will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Well, well, this was definitely something. And that, my pretties, was MS Paint Alice in Wonderland. A creepypasta written by Theta. I think that's how you pronounce it or something. Oh boy, I've heard of this story from a couple narrators that have narrated this story. I think this story was, I don't know if this is like a troll whole story or whatever. I'm not saying it is, but this one I could definitely say was kind of odd. I mean, this is kind of a little weird, so to speak, if that makes total sense. Again, I want to make it clear this is just my opinion, so nobody can get offended by this. This is honestly just doesn't really make any sense. So, I could definitely say the story right here was, I honestly could definitely say I didn't really care for this story that much. I didn't really like it to be much, to be brutally honest. Now, this is no offense to the author or anything, but I'm hoping he or she just takes what I have to say with a grain of salt to hope maybe make the story a lot better, maybe in the future, maybe make better stories in the future. The characters lacked of any development. Like, there was the main narrator, just basically a robot telling people one of its memories. The plot, it lacked originality. It's pretty much a common pasta to have a show or a movie and have one of the main characters, like, say, a movie to appear much darker. But it doesn't really should have explained the backstory. I just didn't really like how the scare factor, I could definitely say, the scare factor was okay, but it could have been better. That, just basically being honest, it's definitely improvable. And this one does have cliches, like, pretty much, with the DVD cliche appear. I mean, so many pastas have used that. I mean, this is not the first rodeo that, creepypastas have used DVD cliches. This one apparently fell in that category. But I honestly just didn't really care for this story that much. I was like, okay then. Like, that's basically was just me being bored of this story. I thought this story was going to have some form of originality, but sadly, it's not non-existent in this story. I mean, I'm not saying that to be rude or anything. I'm just being honest. About some of the sentences and the description of the events. The description of the events somewhat should have been, somewhat understandable and stuff, but there were a couple of, I believe there were some run-on sentences in the story, and there were some sentences that didn't really logically make a lot of sense, so the story was a little difficult to read at certain parts because of the fact that, it's just the way the sentences have been, sprawled out, if that makes total sense. And there's like, why is there this girl, sitting there and, doing all the crazy stuff that she did? There's no explanation. I don't even know who this girl was. Or was she like the creator of MS Paint Alice in Wonderland? I don't know. There's no explanation for it. So there's lack of explanation for any of the characters' actions and stuff. That's one of the things I can definitely say. But I don't know why this is getting a lot of praise, but maybe there's something I'm not seeing, but I really don't know. This story was just kind of, weird. You know, that's just personally me. It's just weird. That's just what this story is. It's just weird. I'm not saying this to be mean or anything. I'm just saying, this to be brutally honest. It honestly could have been, an interesting storyline, but unfortunately that's not really the case because there's just cliches and stuff. But man, this story definitely could have been better, but you know, but this is just what I think personally. So I'm hoping the author understands where I'm coming from, not sitting there and, pretty much just take what I have to say with a grain of salt. And maybe he or she's making better stories in the future. But this is just one story that was not good. I remember listening to Creepypasta narrate this story, and this story was just really weird. But it honestly, not only was just weird, but it also wasn't really making a whole lot of sense and stuff. I mean, I understand. I don't know if this is supposed to be a troll story. Or being serious, but this is something that it could have been used for a troll pasta. But this one, this one is just really weird. I don't even understand it or anything, but it's just really really weird. I'm just being completely honest, but oh my god. Oh geez, I honestly have no idea how the story became to be or why it came to be, but I can understand this is an older story. This is an older story, so I think this was made 2015 or 2016. But the way I see it now, this story honestly just doesn't make any sense. It's just really odd and stuff. I really just didn't care for this story. This one was just really weird. But I mean, the story just wasn't really that good. I'm just being brutally honest with it. Okay. I mean, I'm not sighing because I'm frustrated or anything. I'm not. I'm just. Whoa, boy, I just had a bit of a brain fart because I was trying to compromise together as to what the hell did I just read. This story was just not that good. But I mean, I will say that the author maybe did try his or her best to make the story good, but in my honest opinion, it just wasn't really good. That's just me being brutally honest, if that makes total sense. Oh, okay. That's pretty much the end of the review, but like I'm always going to continue to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story is a 4 out of 10. It might be a little high, but I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 because the grammar's alright, but it does need a little work. The sentence structuring could use some work. And the storyline should be worked on. A complete rewrite would be a suggestion if the author wanted to improve on the story. I would suggest, a complete rewrite of this story and maybe make more sense. I don't even know if this is supposed to be an attempt to be a troll pasta or not, but maybe if somebody knows, maybe they can let me know in the comments. I mean, it's cliche too. There is a couple cliches in the story that honestly just didn't really need to be there. And there was some stuff that either lack of explanation, lack of backstory, or even a lack of explanation as to what was going on. So that's just personally what I have issues when it came to this story, but the story could have been a potential good one or at least something decent. But unfortunately, the story just doesn't it doesn't have any of that. But that's just personally what I'm thinking. All right. That's pretty much all I have to really say, but yeah, if anybody has anything they want to say that I forgot to mention or something, please let me know what it is in the comments below. And as always, I'm going to sit here and just wrap up the review because I'm getting, a little tired. But anyways, like I'm always going to say, you can state your own opinions in the comments below. I'll respect your opinions if you like this story or not. Alright, anyways, what did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you want to follow me on Twitter, link to my Twitter account will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. Also, if you want to follow me on DeviantArt, link to my DeviantArt will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on DeviantArt if you're interested. Also, be sure to subscribe to my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, as link to that will also be in the About page section. So, yeah, as always, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out like always. Roll the outro, because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.